Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Sai. This is Hud 11. The program is 11 at 11, heard each and every Thursday evening at 6:20 a.m. In New York. And it could also be accessed on 11, Levin 11, the number 11, which is the YouTube video, or rabbi.zone, the link of rabbi.zone. You can also hear us on the hotline. And now we are in the Shabbos week of Shabbos Shuva, Ben Kesser Le'eser. I want to wish Klal Yisrael Gemar Chasim Tova. Wherever everybody say we have a lot of problems. Let's get right down to it. Today is primary day. By the time you hear this, the primary will already be over and the damage will already be done. Nevertheless, we have to try to speak out and say what has to be said, and that's why I'm taking the unusual move of putting this out early on top of on my WhatsApp, that maybe a few people will hear this. I want to speak about the fact that on September the 3rd in Hefgewelt, .blogspot, which I want to express my appreciation for. Hefgewelt has published many of our videos of our radio program, and in the one that was published on September the 3rd, which had some 12 comments, you saw clearly that there's a civil war of values going on. A debate in the heart of Lakewood, in the epicenter, in the merkaz of Torah in America, and in Torah in the world outside of Yerushalayim and Bnei Brak. In Lakewood, you see the rotgut, the corruption, that so many people are influenced by the errant Rabbi Shera philosophy and the spin-off from that, and the fact that this has been going on for 40 years, so that people don't understand. They look at things in a shitchiistic and a superficial way. And so you have people saying on the comments, listen, the Gedolim knew what they were talking about, and we have to be interested in money, and money makes the world go round, and we need money for our yeshivas, and we need money for our moistus. And again and again and again, we hear this stupidity, this foolishness. Liya kesef liya zav, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Let me try to explain some of the fallacy of this reasoning. Another thing is that people say, oh, this was a Das Yochid, Rav Avigdor Miller, Yehuda 11 is parroting Rav Avigdor Miller, and he was the only one. False. Rav Avigdor Miller was not the only one. Rav Moshe Feinstein, who I got the letter from, that said, L'malis es ulam kol yemei hearing shall have gay rights to fill City Hall with your body. It's a mitzvah shebegufay. He said you could even leave the Beis Medrash. You don't have to, but you could even leave the Beis Medrash to go protest against the homosexual agenda. You think that, and he said to be mashpia on politicians to vote against all the shmutz and not to be absent. And then he said, Laharis goli l'chol ha'amim she'am Hashem soni te'eva. Reb Moshe was a hater. Yes. Reb Moshe said we have to go, we have to show all the nations of the world, the Gentiles, that we loathe abomination. Reb Moshe was a hater. How does that fit in with today's Agudas Yisrael? Wow. What would the Gedolim of Agudas Yisrael, what would the Presidium say? Such stark language. Would they ever use such language like Moshe Feinstein used? So who is not being loyal to the Messiah? Who is it? Is it me? Or is it them? That's the question, Rabbi Say. That's the question. The point is, Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky in 1984, when I ran for office, he was asked by Rav David Eidenson Shlita in Monsey. You could check it out with him. And he asked, who do you vote for? Do you vote for a person like Solars, who is a powerful liberal Democrat? He's very good for Israel, let's say, hypothetically. He wasn't so good for Israel, but if he would be very good for Israel, and he gave money to yeshivas and moistus, etc., etc. But on the other hand, he was bad on morality. Rav Kamenetsky answered, even if he's worse than bad, if he's bad on Israel, and he doesn't give any money to yeshivas, He's almost anti-Semitic. He doesn't like Jews, but he's good at morality. You have to vote for him. Rev Yaakov Kamenetsky, you're going to tell me, would say that you should go vote for Cuomo, the man who made Kaisum Ksubal Azacha, the man who's making such terrible laws, that's moving to the left of this person he's running against, Cynthia Nixon, today. I mean, I'm repeating myself like a broken record, but it's time and time again in an effort to influence people. This Mushchus Cuomo, Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky and Moshe Feinstein would say to vote for him for Geld? Really? Now, this is a bunch of Bubba-Mises. Let me just say this. When the Torah says you shouldn't bring an Esnan Zaino Mechir Kelev to use that in the Beis HaMikdash, people got money from Znus. And then they want to donate it to the Beis HaMikdash to buy a carbon. Or Mechir Kelev, they sold a dog and they want to use that money. Mailim B'Kodesh, they want to elevate it. They want to use that money to buy a carbon or for the Beis HaMikdash. It's a daraisa. What is this? This is not Esnan Zaina money. On the internet, in the last, it might have even been mentioned in the New York Post article, I'm not sure. Whether there was a quid pro quo, Cuomo refused to answer reporters when he was asked if he told the Satmar Rebbe, don't worry, de Blasio passed the buck of the yeshivas that might not have good standards of education in the English department to the state, and the Department of Education is going to have to look into it. But don't worry, Rebbe, if I'm voted for, everything's going to be okay. So in other words, it's basically an Esnan Zaina. The yeshivas are going to be contingent on whether we support and vote for Cuomo. Now, this is not the first time. It's rumored that Agudas Yisrael was told by Andrew Cuomo at the very beginning, you want TAP for your yeshivas, that you should get TAP, which the college gets, a certain amount of grants of thousands of dollars, up to thousands of dollars per yeshiva student. So don't make a tumult about the homosexual marriage. No, this is alleged. And a cheshbon is made, it's going to pierce anyhow. We can't do anything, so we might as well get the Mechir Kelev and the Esnan Zaina. And then we wonder why we're not building up Gedolei Yisrael necessarily, and why we have such problems even with the yeshivas, and why we have a civil war of values in Lakewood. Maybe it's from 40 years of Esnan Zaina and Mechir Kelev. Rabbi Say, the reason I'm putting this on the WhatsApp now is because we can't wait until tonight. Maybe 5 people will hear this. And if 5 people will hear this and they'll understand the biggest mitzvah you can do today in the Aseret Yemei Shuva, Erev Shabbos Shuva, when we need schusim, when we considered beinanim to tip the scales, is to ignore the shtusim v'havolim of Agudas Yisrael that says vote, vote. That has the chutzpah to use the names of the Gedolim of yesterday who said to vote. They were speaking at a different time, in a different generation, when only the extreme politicians were minavolim. And they, with Moshe Rav Yaakov, were not apprised of what every politician stood for. And whenever they were apprised of what the politicians stood for, whenever they were apprised, they would stand up and they would tell you very, very clearly, like Rav Moshe did in 1977 in Florida, when he heard there was a discussion of voting in Dade County for so-called homosexual rights. Rav Moshe was very adamant. He was very, very strong. So that's what the situation is, Rabbi Isai. That's what the situation is. I want you to understand. I want you to understand there's no question how Rabbi Rav Yaakov. And by the way, let's move it to current events. These foolish people, these ignorant people who don't know, they say, oh, Yehuda Levin is a Das Yochid from Rav Avigdor Miller was a Das Yochid. Excuse me. They have the biography of Rabbi Belsky. I can tell you personally, having spoken to Rabbi Belsky at certain points made robocalls. Rabbi Belsky was very strongly opposed to voting for any of these low-life politicians. He signed Kol Kairos. How about Raphael Cohen? Raphael Cohen stood up when Clinton was running for re-election, and there was the Monica Lewinsky scandal. He spoke on Shabbos Shuva. His drasha was about how it's prohibited to vote for Clinton and all the schmutz. So there are literally 5 or 10 kol koros over the years, starting with the Saftas Rabbanim, but there are Mansi Rabbanim and other Rabbanim. Most recently, it was published in the Jewish press that if a politician votes to advance legalization of euthanasia, of assisted suicide, al pi halacha, you're not allowed to vote for people. So what is this shtus to say it's a das yachid? If you sit one-on-one with even Gedolei Rabbanim today, and you're masbeh to them what the politician stands for, I still issue my challenge. Not one Rav. Recently, the Saftas Rabbanim just came out with some kind of a hakosha because it's gotten so hot and heavy. The amount of pictures with Rabbanim, with low-life politicians, like the Satmar Rebbe shaking hands with Cuomo, and Letitia James going to this one and that one, that the Saftas Rabbanim felt the need to put out. They speak out of both sides of their mouth, of course. Their people meet with all the lowlifes. And then they come out like holy rollers. No, we're not saying to vote for anybody. We're neutral, etc., etc. Shame on you, Saftas Rabbanim. You're neutral. You're neutral when Klal Yisrael is drinking poison. Where's the achrayus of the Saftas Rabbanim, Agudas Yisrael, to tell somebody you can't vote for somebody who is poisoning the wellsprings from which we drink? Anything less than that is a betrayal. Anything less than that, I'm sorry to say, I'm sorry to speak like this, but it's not Asid, and I ask you to question it. I'm not threatening, Chas v'shalom, or cursing. It's not going to be Asid and Litnis Adin. The juxtaposition of this time of the year, election day, primary day, was mamish pushed off because of Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah means Kedusha. Rosh Hashanah means what's Basher to Klal Yisrael. Rosh Hashanah means Ruchnius. Rosh Hashanah means a new start with Hashem. Kifaltu Geschwigen. It's so obvious that the great Empire State, New York State, had to push off elections because of Rosh Hashanah. So what is Agudas Yisrael, who's officially representing Gedolim and Klal Yisrael, doing? Go out and vote, go out and vote, go out and vote. It's a Democratic primary. Everyone's a manuval. Assisted suicide, transgender bathrooms, not botched abortions, not giving medical help to the babies. What are they doing? They just passed in the city council by 41-6 or something like that, that on the birth certificate, it's going to be X or binary. In other words, they're going to take away the genders of male and female. Hashchosa mamish. Unbelievable. And nobody puts it together. Why can't Agudas Yisrael put it together? Why can't all their Rabbanim and all their Presidium, the same people who are quiet by Flatbush Mama, the same people who are quiet by so many things, and they're actively, proactively being goyim that Yidden should take their hands and go into voting booths and pull down the lever and be active accomplices in promoting the schmutz. Let me say something. There's a mythical figure on WhatsApps, on the Fruma WhatsApps, a fallen away Lubavitcher by the name of Chaz. Very personable, interesting fellow who spends a lot of time commenting on all kinds of things. And versteht sich, Chaz was on my WhatsApp at a point. And he started off by cursing me out, speaking nibble pet to me because I opposed Flatbush Mama. But then gradually he calmed down. And he actually was speaking divrei Torah sometimes. So he is a classic example of the good is still there and the not good is there. I'm not going to get into his personal life, but I'm sure he knows himself. When it comes to tznius, he says he's not concerned. Tznius doesn't exist for him. Why? But Chaz today is saying, he's posting, even though Rabbi Levin's a Meshugana, he's just a traitor, but the Maisa, what he's saying, how can you vote? Chaz, with all his own tznius, is saying, how can you go and vote for people who are advancing Mishkav Zocher and transgender? This is something that Hashem hates. Elikim Shel Eila Saina Zima, by the way, Chaz. It talks about licentiousness. It's not just talking about mishkav zach. It's talking about heterosexual licentiousness, which is koruch, which is intertwined in sneers. Chaz doesn't want to understand that because of his personal predilections. I understand. But it's Hashem has a sense of humor. He's even taking a person like Chaz, and in the same mouthful that he's making fun of me, etc. I'm Klal Yisrael's punkush, and call me names, call me what you want. But even Chaz in his low state understands that this voting for all this schmutz and everything else. Even Chaz said, right now there's a hurricane hitting Carolina, mythical proportions, biblical proportions. Could you imagine our goodness Yisrael is fiddling while the Carolinas and possibly Virginia, possibly part of Georgia, possibly part of Florida, and if it doesn't happen at the end, and if it's downgraded, but the strashunka, the threat alone, is that not enough to understand how serious the problem is? It's a pachat pachodim. What's going on? Hashem juxtaposes. The primary is pushed off from Rosh Hashanah to Erev Shabbos Shuva. The hurricane is coming that the president of the United States speaks about this hurricane. And he says it's mythical proportions. The news media says in some places there's going to be 40 inches of rain, 3.5 feet. And then there's going to be flood surges from 6 to 9 feet tall. It could be catastrophic in terms of the loss of life if people don't get out of there. You're talking about millions of people being displaced. You're talking about billions of dollars in damages that's about to be done. And our good is busy fiddling, go vote, go vote. I'm Vinaira. And they don't tell us they're not going to have to give a din v'cheshbon. Everybody associated with our good is not going to have to give a din v'cheshbon. Go vote for what? For Cynthia Nixon? The liberal lesbian, for Cuomo, the mushkis, the thug. That's what we're supposed to go vote for. That's what Rav Moshe Rav Yaakov would do. That's what Rav Satmar Rebbe Rav Yoel would do in the voting booth. Yeah, really? You believe that? That's what a Rabbi Belsky would do. That's what Yibod L'chaim Rafael Cohen would do. That's what all the Rabbanim who signed on these Kol Kairos, Sephardic Rabbanim, Yeshivish Rabbanim, Hasidish Rabbanim. There's lists and lists. It's a lie to say that this is Yehuda 11. Thank you for giving me the credit. I love it, but it's an extreme lie. Now, most of you are going to hear this and see this video after the fact of the primary. That's why I'm doing this WhatsApp. But I want to tell you something. It's in time for the election day, and it's in time for you to change your life. It's in time for you. You know, there's a big question whether you should do Kiddush Lavana, Matzah Yom Kippur, because that's a Zman Simcha. And there's even a question if you should ideally eat first. That's why in Stalin, they eat first and they come back to be Mekadosh Lavana, because you shouldn't wear the sneakers. You should wear your shoes and you should be Besimcha on a full stomach. Others do Kiddush Lavana Dafka before Yom Kippur to have the extra zchus. The fact that the primary comes out before Shabbos Shuva. You understand, we need the schusim of doing the right thing vis-a-vis voting. When the Oisvarf, Kalman Yeager, the councilman, writes, Cuomo was this and Cuomo was that, he cares for each and every one, he cares for our yeshiva students, he cares. He made kais from ksubal azacha. He plays with you. He plays in unbelievable ways, and the people who know about politics know the bullies and the thugs. And Yeager writes this, and his wife is the same one who's tweeting Yashikayos to people who support the Mishkav Zach, the transgender agendas, and she's giving mazel tovs and everything else. How do we come that in Borough Park, the densely populated Orthodox Haredi Hasidic community, they should vote for a lowlife like Kalman Yeager? There's no other word for it. Lowlife. He marched in a parade in 2007 of thereabouts with Fernando Ferrer in the Mishkav Zachar parade in Queens. With his Bekisha, without his Bekisha, shite him. Vote for him because Yoni doesn't wear a Bekisha. He does wear a Bekisha. This is a very good reason to vote. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How does it come that Klal Yisrael gets this kind of chazarai with this kind of a wife doing this stuff? You know what the answer is? The answer is our goodness Yisrael. Because the Ratgot starts at the top, and if our goodness Yisrael could be sending out on the self-same time there's a hurricane, nobody wakes up. Nobody puts it together. Nobody says anything. Our goodness Yisrael, did they even put out something? Tell me something. There were no Yidden in any of those areas? You think there's no Yidden? It's Judenrein in the states of the Carolinas, and possibly a part of Georgia, possibly in Virginia, parts of Virginia, and possibly in parts of Florida, whatever it is. There's nobody, there's no Yiddish money involved, there's no Yiddish lives involved. Of course there is. But to put out that we should pray and do tshuva because we see it's a catastrophic thing, no, that the Galach Pat Robertson has to write about these kinds of spiritual things with the hurricane. Our good is too busy telling people you got to go out and vote so they could show their masters. You understand? The ones who hold the doggy chains on our necks, they could show, see, we called on the people to vote. And they say, it doesn't matter who you vote for. It doesn't matter who you vote for. In other words, let's say if you vote for Tokamata and Hitler, we would agree it matters. But if you're voting for Godla Machtir, Yosim and Ahargai, that do more damage because they push licentiousness, that doesn't matter. It's up to us, and we don't need any guidance. But of course, Tiltul Min Atzad, wink, wink, blink, blink, like when Rabbi Shera, the late great Rabbi Shera, who I don't come to this kafsula in any other area, but in this area, history has proven him wrong, and I'll say it again and again ad nauseum. Rabbi Shera had David Schick, wink, wink, blink, blink, nonpartisan, raising money for Cuomo's re-election. Yeah, we don't know where our good that gets their bread buttered. We don't know that our good that wants that they should vote, right? And the way Haskell Bennett wrote the article in the Hamadiyah a week or two ago that I referenced, we were saying Cynthia Nixon is such a liberal. She's with the other one, Cortez, and the other liberals, as if Cuomo, by comparison, is some kind of a tzaddik. Cuomo, who said America is not great, America was never great because he's fawning and he's desperate to show how ultra-liberal he is. Remember, if Cuomo doesn't win big today, in Yirtzeh Hashem, this will hurt and maybe thoroughly deep six his presidential aspirations, halavai. That's what this is about. We're gonna stop talking for a minute about the voting, and we're gonna discuss some other things. But I do want to say this. I want to say on Agudas Yisrael, the Posik, and on all these people, all these Feinschreckers, all these so-called leaders who are leading us astray actively. When the Gvilna Gaon says din v'cheshbon, din is on the exact thing you did, and cheshbon is on the ripple effect. When Agudas says to go vote, it's like you're telling people to go into an enclosure that there's pit bulls inside. But you don't tell the people how not to be bitten or how to take care not to be harmed by the pit bulls. So you're misleading the people, you're putting them to sakana. Telling people Bizman Hazeh to vote and not giving them hadracha and not telling them that 98% of Democrats, it's osa. And Hashem doesn't have nachas from this. There's not going to be a din v'cheshbon on this. The ripple effect is not going to go to the Aguda people, to the presidium, to the officers, to the gedolim, to the rabbanim. Unbelievable. That's why the Satmar Rebbe said that when you vote for the Knesset Haminim, you are responsible for anything that they do because they become your shluchim. And that's why the Kasher Rav said that applies equally in America. That applies if you vote for Dorkatcher. If you vote for Dorkatcher and he's supporting Hapolis Valad, he's supporting abortion, you have a chelik in that. Aguda doesn't say this. Aguda doesn't hold this. But nobody says, everybody deduces. You see, Levin's a Das Yochid, and if Aguda is doing this for all the years, it must be good. It must be good. You're going to wait until after 120 to understand that my logic is absolutely where the rubber hits the road. It's impeccable logic. You're going to put your brain on automatic pilot and make a deduction. I guess if Aguda said it, da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. Like when Rav Elia Svei said to Shlomo Winterzel sein gesund, Nobody consulted me yet when Aguda decided to honor Joe Lieberman. It was a mistake. Ooh, Aguda makes mistakes. They don't consult the Gedolim. Yeah, like when Rav Moshe Feinstein decided that the letter that I elicited from him to fight against gay rights and to be mashpia the politicians to vote against it and to show to all the people to Amashem Sonetiyeva, why didn't he put it in Aguda stationery? He knew what he was dealing with. I've explained this in the past. He knew. What say? Einayim lohem v'lo yiru. The Sachtos, the Hasidic Rabbanim, the Rebbes. This is, what does it mean, Levin? You come, you come. Who are you? I told you the Pinchas quotient. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu was mollified. He was consoled. He felt so terrible. I forgot the halacha, kanoyim poigin. Then he realized, Karina de Igra to Ilari Tervanka, that Pinchas was a plebe. He was a commoner. And Davka, we would need commoners in all the generations to stand up and say, this was the Messiah from Rabbanim. And if the Moshe Rabbeinu was not around, the Rabbanim are not around, if they didn't remember for whatever the reason is, then it's up to the commoners to do it. This is the proud tradition from the very beginning, from the archetype, from the prototype, from the template, the first time it appeared in the Torah. And that's what's going on here. And the reason that I'm on the WhatsApp and the reason that I'm doing this radio program is because we're not getting any younger, all of us. And there are so few people who have the hashkafa who are doing it. Dama lahashiv. They know how to answer the apikursim and the shtusim. They know how to point out on the blog Hefgewelt, which does so many good things. But the commenters are divided. There's a civil war of values between the Gelt and Fres crowd. Understand? And those who understand it's a no-brainer. Morality, decency. Hashem gives the money. Hashem supposed to yeshivas. You understand? This is what's going on here. And I have the ability to address this because I have 40 years of practice, shimush, for 25 or more years by Gedolei Yisrael of Yesdia. And I'm quoting a chapter and verse, including Gedolim will live today. We're opposed to all this Chazar and Shmutz. Call up Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky. Ask him, am I allowed to go to vote for Cuomo? And he's continuing. It's not that he once did something and now he's only doing good. He's continuing the Chazarai, Rabbi Sai. The answer is a no-brainer. You don't need Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky. You don't need Motzes Gedolei Torah. You don't need anybody. You don't need Kalman Yeager. You don't need Chaim Deutsch. You understand, Rabbi Sai? You need common sense and seichel. What did you go to yeshiva for in Beis Yaakov's all the years? So do you understand why this is happening? Well, Rabbi Sai, we continue. A week or two ago, I received a phone call about a very interesting organization, and I think it's appropriate now during the Aseret Simei Shuva to talk about this organization. What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu busy himself with? He busies himself with who to vote for. And to listen to Agudas Yisrael, we have to try Hakar Setoy by voting for the lowlifes who are feeding poison to our children. Could you imagine? It's like somebody tells you, go to a doctor, that the doctor is going to inoculate some of your children with poison. They're going to give inoculations that are going to give the kid the flu or worse diseases. Go to that doctor. What's the difference? That's what Agudas Yisrael is telling you. Okay? So first of all, they said like this. We all agree there's too many singles. We all agree that parents are not getting any or enough shidduchim read to their children. So what's the solution? The solution is not just to depend on the professional shadchanim who do this purely for a living. The solution is that we have to have far more people who are professional in their lives, but they not be professional shadchanim. You don't need a professional shadchan to be Yoshev Muzavik Zvukim. All you need is somebody with heart and gefühl to do it. So this organization wants to spread it around to get more and more people involved try to read shidduchim. They say you don't have to ask the shadchan how many successful shidduchim did you conclude. You have to ask the shadchan or the potential shadchan, professional or neophyte. How many people did you read and are you reading? Because if enough people are reading people, then they're going to be matzliach. And they gave me a statistic that 60 to 70% of shidduchim are made by people who are not professional shadchanim, but they became shadchanim. They're doing it. Would you like to be one of those people who has the eternal schar that you started a father and mother in Klal Yisrael, and they have kindlech, and the kindlech do mitzvahs and Torah, and the continuum of Klal Yisrael, and you have a chelik and all that because you were the emulator HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yoshev Mezavik Zvugim. So what they're doing is they're putting together a database. They're putting together a computer. They already spent $40,000 to start the database. They have 3,000 people. They're planning after Yontiv to raise another $30,000 and to put the database. Now, they don't deal with singles directly. In other words, you can't call them up. They're not interested in talking to singles. They're interested in talking to shadchanim. The shadchanim are going to do due diligence, and they're going to get all the information about people. They're going to get it by talking to them over the phone. And when they talk to them over the phone, they're going to get the information, and then these shadchanim are going to hopefully read shidduchim to others. Now, the way they do this is they go very, very logically. They go from shul to shul. They get all the lists of the members of the people, of the parents who have children who are single. They go to schools. They do the same thing. And they're trying to put this into a giant database and keep it current and have all the information and then disperse it to many, many shadchanim. So they're only interested in shadchanim. And the number that the shadchanim could call, singles should not call this number. This is not something that singles could call. Singles could call individual shadchanim and have the shadchanim call this number. Okay? Let me give you the number that they should call. The name of the organization is called leshadech.com. Leshadech, LASHADECH.com. You could also donate money because they need money to pay volunteers to do the input, to obtain the data, and to call the shadchanim. And they need some money for that. And you could have a schus in all those shidduchim. So it's leshadech.com. Now, who supports this? The Belzadai, the Vinadai, the Nitradai, Rav Cheskel Roth. They have a list of 10 Rabbanim who are supporting this. So this is very, very impressive. And every effort, this is a beautiful thing to involve oneself with, especially now in Yemei Hadin when we're all baining them and we hope to have a positive adjudication. Let me give you this number. Please write it down. Leshadech.com. And if you're a shadchan, you can call up to put yourself on the list to get information, to get the updated data so that you can go to work and make shidduchim. The number is 844-537-4233. Again, it's 844-537-4233. So you see, this is something very, very good. This is something in the Good 11's program, we don't only talk negative and put down people. Yes, we are critical. Yes, we do. But when we see something positive, we're proud to pass it on to Klal Yisrael. And leshadech.com is a positive effort to involve the masses in becoming shadchanim and helping out. This goes in tune with what my brother is doing. When my brother spoke at the Levaya of his son and his Kala Yisrael and the Kaplan girl, Aleim HaSholom. Because of that, they started something that's now burgeoned into 10K, where people are reading shidduchim, and it's on the website. So this is very similar. It's in sync. The ikar is, let's read shidduchim. Let's do for yenim in a way that will make a difference. Let's counteract the shtusim of telling people, go vote, go drink poison, go make things worse for the tzibur. Let me tell you something. If you have two lowlifes running, like you have in the Democratic primary, don't make a cheshbon that you have to be God's fazorga and do the lesser of two evils. You should do nothing. Shev al tasa odef. And if you'll say, the people say, but look, the politicians are going to ignore us. If they don't see we vote, then go in and do a write-in. Go in and pull the lever without voting for anyone. Don't make your own cheshbonis. You don't want, after 120 years, you're going to be in the Beis Shamala for nothing. For nothing. They're going to say, why did you go and pull a lever for Shmutz Yak? Because you are making the intellectual cheshbon. This is better for the Yidden, or this is the lesser of two evils. Hashem says, I need you to make those cheshbonis for me. Thank you very, very much. And I give you my classic example. Again, they have an extra collection of garbage before Pesach throughout New York City. And that collection cost $10 million. So the men in the green sanitation suits are now going to knock on your door and say $25 for your garbage pickup. What? I have to pay $25. But I have to get rid of my chametz. I'm going to do it. But I'll never vote for de Blasio. I'll never vote for Cuomo. I don't care what Gadol tells me. I don't care what Rebbe tells me. He costed me $25. What if he only costed you $18? What if he only costed you $10? You still wouldn't do it. So for $10, you wouldn't vote. But now when Agudah tells you to be metami your hands, to be metami your moyach, to be metami your neshama, to go into a voting booth full of nechoshim v'akravim, pit bulls and vipers and snakes, and to proactively promote one of them, that they should do more schmutz, then you're doing it. You're not a hypocrite. You're not a fool. Excuse me for thinking. Excuse me so much. Let me just tell you something. Hopefully, by the time you hear this tonight in the air, hopefully, Mirza Hashem Yehirava, Flatbush Mama should lose. Hopefully, she should lose by a lot. But the danger is that she's very ambitious and she's going to come back. And if she's going to come back, and the Rabbonim and the Rebbitzins who don't speak out, who haven't spoken out, they're not osid litinis adin. They're not going to have to explain. They're not going to have to explain. What are you a leader for? What are you a machanech for? What are you a maraderech for? Not to speak out against this. Let me tell you, I wrote an article that appeared in the Jewish press, leading or misleading. And I wrote this about tznius. Tznius is not about covering the elbows. Tznius is not about it has to cover below the knee even when you sit down. Tznius that's ground zero. That's the aleph base. It's about the tightness. It's about what's emblazoned across the chest that attracts attention. It's about when a woman's walking in the back and she doesn't see how, you should excuse me, part of her limbs protrude. And that's why the Gemara says, Acharei ha'ari, better to walk after a lion than to walk after a woman, because and the woman who wasn't careful enough, she is oiveres, and Rabbeinu Yonah says she will go to the same place in the Olam HaEmes, down below, if he's oiveles asuru and it's her fault. And the same thing applies for putting on too much cosmetics in public or dolling yourself up. Anything that attracts attention. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. I'm sorry, but husbands have to be responsible for their wives and children. That's what the Chavetz Chaim says, and I'm sure it didn't start with him. I'll repeat it over and over and over again. I'm not trying to win a popularity contest. I'm not trying to have you say, oh, Rabbi Levin is wonderful. You can say, they started a WhatsApp called Anti-Effing Levin, and they spell out the word effing. They have a few WhatsApps that they're constantly criticizing me using nivel peh and making fun of me. And there are etliche thousands of people that are turned off and say I'm a sugar. That's all wonderful. I couldn't care less. That's an affirmation I'm doing the right thing. Moshe Rabbeinu said, "Oid mat yiskaluni." By Pinchas, he said, "Rei ben puti zu shapitim al zikna lavodah zara." Criticism of people who stand up for morality is as old as the history of Klal Yisrael. I'm not concerned. And the more people that gnash their teeth and the more people that criticize me, the more I think I'm doing a good job. My job is just to be my dia and to give chizik to a few people, a minority, who know what's right, what's wrong, but they don't have a spokesman. To tell you, yes, we can still speak up, but and maybe encourage them to speak up. And the other thing is, there are some people on the fence. There are some people who are ignorant because of 40 years post-Stonewall with the Rabbi Scherer errant philosophy of kissing up to them, voting for them, agreeing to disagree on the moral issues we don't mention. Unless the Reform rabbis speak out on the moral issues, then we have to mention it. Shtusim, fahavolim, silliness. We don't have to mention it because of the etzem ra that it is. We have to wait for the Reform rabbis. This, you're going to tell me that this thing that popped out of Rabbi Sher's mind, this was Rav Moshe of Yaakov? Anechtige Tag. Rav Moshe of Yaakov spoke out against abortion. Please, let's get real. Enough of the kindergarten stuff, this phony baloney stuff. I'm not trying to win popularity contests, Rabbi say. So, let me tell you what tznius is. You'll never hear this anywhere else, and I don't know why. It's so simple. Could you imagine if every teacher would start teaching this to girls from the 6th grade and up? Every teacher in every Beis Yaakov and every middle schooler. Can you imagine how much better the tznius would be just by giving this simple thing? When you walk to your clothing closet in the beginning of the day, and you're deciding what outfit to wear, what top to wear, what bottoms, how to coordinate, how colorful it should be, and what shmekachs to put on, and what kind of shoes, and how high, and how it should clack or not clack, and everything else. Is your cheshbon, I want to look very attractive. I want everybody to say, ooh, Hansi looks beautiful today. Is that what I want? Do I secretly even want to be a head turner? Because I have low self-esteem. Do I want to be an object of people's desire? Or I'm just dressing so nice and spending hundreds of dollars on these outfits, right? That are tight or that are ultra colorful, that attract the eyes. I'm only doing it for the other ladies. I'm not doing it because I want people of the opposite gender. This is the kind of schmooze in your face that has to be said. It has to be said in a more genteel, in a more refined way than gruff, rough, coarse Yehud 11. But I'm not trying to win any friends or influence people per se. In other words, popularity contest. I'm just putting this out there. Let the madrichos, the rebbitzins, the rabbis figure out the way to say it. But this is what has to be said. The mind has to be trained. I want to say a tefillah every day. Why don't the Rabbanim make a tefillah that every girl should be taught until she knows it Baal Peh in the Beis Yaakov? By the time she gets, and it'll become ingrained in the head, the tefillah. They're putting out a gewaldige tefillah from the Tosfos Yontif. They put it out again and again. Stop the talking in shul. It's beautiful. They put out not to talk in shul, and the damage is just done. How about a second tefillah, a tefillah of tznius? He writes from Hashem Lekeinu V'Lkei V'Seinu, and he writes Aliyah's Bas Yisrael Chashuva V'Ksheira V'Tara Libi La'ovdecha Be'emes V'ani Lo Rotze Lahachshil Shum Ben Odem V'al Yira Shum Ben Odem Oisi V'Yistakle Eloi V'Yehena Mimaroisai. Nobody should look at me. Nobody should have pleasure from me. Ken Yehiratzen. Tazreini no Hashem, help me that I should pick clothing where I'll look balabatish, but I won't attract attention, that my akudamin should be low key, that when I shmekachs I should reserve for my husband, but not for the wherever I go, it wafts after me an odor that causes men and people to look at me. Because I don't want to be machshel anybody. How about such a thing? In other words, we all admit that tznius is such a problem now. We all admit that. So how about the tznius should be upgraded? Where is the aguda? Where are the rabbanim? Where are the organizations? Yoho, there's an organization, Benos Malka. It does tremendous things at Hashiurim. Why don't they take this idea from me, put it in a better terminology, and spread it out in all your literature and on all your hotlines and recordings and everything else? That's what tznius is about. Now, Erev Rosh Hashanah, I saw they sent me a post of Flatbush Mama wearing a tight top with a huge yellow, colorful bumblebee on it, which attracts attention to the chest area, exactly the opposite of tznius. And she leaves this message. I want to give a Rosh Hashanah wish that all the haters, the haters should be submerged in a vat of honey. And then she goes on to say whatever she says to good wishes. Now, I want to tell her, I put out a video, but I want to say this publicly. Flatbush Mama, don't compliment yourself. I say Eidus on myself as I'm a Yid. I do not hate you. We have a Havas Yisrael. I wish you the best. When the Yeheshmei Rabbah, we even ask for out and out Rishoyim that Hashem should take them out of Gehenna. Okay, we take no pleasure in the downfall of people or the punishment or the suffering of people. It's pavus that I've said many times. I feel terrible about what Sheldon Silver is going through, even though he did terrible things legislatively. I don't take any pleasure. I'm not a fool. I'm not a hypocrite. I realize I myself am going to Gehenna. I realize I myself am a hypocrite, Taka, and that I do averis that I shouldn't do. So I don't wish bad, but I have Hashem sinu ra. I understand about sneers. I understand about the dangers of the gay, lesbian, transgender agenda, and therefore I understand about the ditzy comedy. I understand about Kol Kvudim Melch Panima, and therefore I'm telling Flatbush Mama and her acolytes, her followers, stop making yourself the victims. Nobody hates you. We have Rachmanis on you, and we look askance at you that you don't know the Aleph of Hashkafa. But Mernish, that's it. And who's responsible for this? I believe there's a trickle-down effect. I believe when the Kohen Gadol or the leaders of the generation make a slight mistake, by the time it trickles down spiritually, the concentric circles, the ramifications of the echoes, it's magnified and magnified and magnified and magnified as it gets lower and lower, and therefore you have Flatbush Mamas, therefore you have people on Hefgeveld who are balaburcheving and balabetching about, the money, the yeshivas, it's a das yachid, Levin says, was only Rav Victor Miller, it's ignorance. It goes back to the Orach Chaim HaKodesh. The Orach Chaim HaKodesh says, the first time I make the punishment fit the crime. It's on the pasuk of Afani Halichimcha Bekeri or Hamas Keri. But after a while, you lose the Siyata Dishmaya. There's more and more crud. There's more and more buildup. And people don't even realize the Magen Avram that's deep inside us. Agudas Yisrael, that's right, the leaders, if they don't exercise the muscle of sensitivity on Kedusha and sneers and the Nilbushas at Torah, and they don't understand who really provides money, HaKadosh Baruch Hu provides money. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has made millionaires and billionaires in our community like never before in the history of Klal Yisrael. We could fund our own things. Stop depending on the government and kissing up to the government and telling everybody to go into the gas chamber, so to speak, to take the poison into our system in order to get some geld for yeshivas, some shekels from yeshivas. The Brisker Rav in one of the early volumes, Rabbi Miller said over from the Brisker Rav, he codified him in the ultimate biography. He said, it's not my job to keep the yeshivas open. That's up to Hashem. If they're going to make giyus banos, if they're going to try to take our children and send them, our ben, into the army, and they're going to threaten me that if I fight it to close the yeshivas, he says, let them close the yeshivas. That's a Hashem's achrayus. It's Hashem's achrayus, says the Brisker Rav, how the yeshivas are going to survive. It's not for a good to tell us, or for the Hasidish or whoever to tell us, to get a few shkolim, a few breadcrumbs that they give us back from our tax dollars. We should vote for the mushchosim and the lowlifes. How many times I'll say it? I'll say it 1 billion times, ad nauseum. Ad nauseum. That's what we're talking about, Rabbi Say. Now, let's see what else we have to discuss over here. I want to tell you something. Once, years ago, I turned on the radio and I heard the Lubavitcher program with the late, great Rabbi Weinberger. Rabbi Weinberger, you know, they would teach some Tanya and they would say over a sikh from the Rebbe. And he said over Punk when I turned in, because everything is a Pascal. That's how you get Pascal. That's how you get messages. When you turn on the radio program, you listen to this. You're supposed to hear this if you listen to this. It's supposed to set you thinking. So I heard, they said over B'Shem the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov said if a Yid comes down for 70 years just to do a Yid, one Taiva, all the vicissitudes of life, all the difficulty and the struggles, it was all kedai to do a Yid a Taiva. Yeah? Let me tell you something. How do I know, Levin, I'm doing the right thing? So many people are cursing me out. So many people are saying terrible things about me and my family. They're saying I'm a Mishkav Zochanik and I'm an Eishes and I'm effing this and I'm a that and everything else. Do I get paid? I want to make an appeal. I usually don't do this. Shuva. I've taken $10,000 out of my own pocket on credit cards to pay for this. I'm poshut destitute, And I'm doing this because the first time I met Rav Miller, he made me take out half the money for a plane ticket. He said, half on me, half on you. And he was mechanech me. He inaugurated my activism by showing I got to pay. So when I have the opportunity, I have to pay. I'm doing this, and I'm hoping that before I max out my credit card, which is coming up very soon, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will send me Yeshua. But I have to make a little ishtalis. It's never helped. You know, there are Hasidic people, there are Erlich Kanoim, there are multimillionaires who to give me the few $100, not to me, to pay directly to the radio station, to defray my credit card bill, to pay to the radio station so I can continue to rant, to fulminate, to agitate, to educate, and to do what I believe HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me to do. There are so many Kanoim out there. There are Kanoim who give money to a karta, to extreme Zachin, etc., etc. And here I'm doing something so important. And I hope, Yehrava, maybe somebody out there will listen to this and will know somebody who's a multi-millionaire, or who is very money and who can give me a sizable donation. I can't start with the 18s and the $26. It doesn't do it for me. But somebody who could pay for a radio program, $200 or something like that towards the radio program. Somebody who could help me defray the expenses. So I'll be clear to do other things, other projects that I have to do, and not be so concerned with this. It would be a tremendous chus, a tremendous mitzvah, and you would have a chelik in everything that I'm doing. And it's neitel schar keneged kulam, because nobody else is doing this. I really need help. You can contact me by rabbi11@gmail.com. You can contact me at 718-469-6999. Contact me if somebody could help me, if somebody could introduce me, somebody could take me into a gevir. There are people, Bali Tzedakah, who do tremendous things. For some reason, this is my challenge. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is challenging me. I want you to be a nachshon and another. Go until the water's by your nostrils and they touch a cut off your credit cards. I'm doing it, but I need help, and I'm not embarrassed or ashamed to say it. I'm not expecting anything. I'm expecting Revach Hatzal Yamad LiYehudim, LaYehudi, LiYehudah, from somewhere, and that it shouldn't be Atvel Beisavich Teved, au contraire. I believe I'm saving. I believe I'm doing what Levi wanted to do, was supposed to do. Shamu Mesechu Briski and Sayru. I believe I'm doing that, and I'm going to continue to do that. What advice I said? Getting back to the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov says, if you do one time, 70 years, it was kedai to be in the world. So listen to this. I have my WhatsApp, and people are cursing me out and criticizing everything else. And I get a message from somebody. He sends me a written message. I used to be religious. I'm not religious because terrible things happened to me when I was young. You can figure out what these terrible things are. He says, because of you, Rabbi Levin, I'm touched by what you said. I have a daughter, a wife. I might not be religious, but I want standards and values. I put on tefillin today. I was kemat crying. I took a person who left, who was off the derech, and he put on tefillin. Not because I told him to, just because he felt a kesher with HaKadosh Baruch Hu after listening to what I said. And the second day he writes, I put on tefillin again, and today I called my mother and I gave her such pleasure. I'm not sure if he said that he went to shul with his father or something like that. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But this is a siman to me. It's a siman to me. This outweighs the criticisms, the cursings, the blabblings and babblings of thousands of Yidden, potentially, who are cursing me out. This makes it all worthwhile. Whatever Rabbi say. Let me see what else we have to tell you here. Okay. I want to spend the last few minutes telling you a Dvar Torah that I had. You know, it says in the Shulchan Aruch that on Yom Noraim you're not supposed to eat egos, because egos is b'gematria chet. So you don't eat egos. Because Simona Milsa, if it's Simona Milsa, even if it's a negative. Now, there are poskim, maybe the Vilna Gaon is one of them, who say you shouldn't eat grapes. There's a discussion whether it's all grapes, or it's white grapes, or it's black grapes, I forget. What could the cheshvan be? The cheshvan of not eating grapes is because the man da'ama, that the chet of Eitz Hadassah was done on Rosh Hashanah was with a grape. So I want to ask you questions. Why are you allowed to make kiddush on wine? Why are you allowed to make hamoitzi on bread, on challah, chita? Why does the Torah say that you eat an esrog on as one of the Simonim. I can't remember if the Torah says you dip the esrog in the honey or not. Why does he say esrog? Mandama esrog. Okay? And why do we find the prohibition on eating te'ena? The fourth mandama was te'ena, fig. Why do we find that te'ena it's also to eat? So I would like to say like this. Because when Malki Tzedek Melech Sholem was the Kohen Lekel Elyon in the Yerushalayim, before it was called Yerushalayim, it was called Malki Tzedek Melech Sholem, it was just called Sholem. He brought out to Avram Avinu lechem and yayin. So at that moment, if not sooner, lechem and yayin made its way into the Torah to be codified. That means lechem and yayin now have a profound spirituality, a profound holiness. He didn't give him peanut chews. He didn't give him chocolate chip cookies. He gave him lechem and yayin, the Torah. Yayin, leman dama sachta novim, was grape juice. So now it's jujitsu, J-E-W. You flip over the negative, you make it a positive. Remember, the Tanchuma says, the bigger the Aveira, the bigger the mitzvah that comes out of it. The Tanchuma Kisisa, and it says, you know what? Hashem, the biggest Aveira after the Chet of Adam Rishon, the redux was the Chet of Egel. The Chet of Egel came back, Kibor Sheish Moshe. They made a cheshbon of 6 hours. Moshe was supposed to be back at midday, and they made a mistake in the cheshbon. And therefore, the Machzas HaShekel is a rectification of that. The Machzas HaShekel is 6 gram meat, it's a certain weight of 6 gram meat. So you see that the bigger the Aveira, the Chet HaEgel, the world's second biggest Aveira ever in history, spawns, jujitsu flips over and turns into a schutz of Machzas HaShekel, which is the whole accumulation of Klal Yisrael donating shkolim for the Mikdash, to fix up the Mikdash and for Kavanas HaTzibur and everything else. So the same thing. Yayin, Sochta Novim, they made grape juice, and he drank from the grape juice. It now becomes the consecration. It brings down the spirituality. It concretizes the spirituality, which is ruchnius, and brings it down to a drink that you assimilate and integrate into your guv. And you consecrate. You consecrate every Sudas mitzvah, Yontiv, Shabbos, Bris Milah, Pidyon Ben, whatever. And you say, L'chaim. Like I heard from Steve Werner, Spare Shabbos, you say Rosh Hashanah, you say L'chaim. The reason you say L'chaim, before it was on schnapps, it started on wine. Because since wine was mavis, you say L'chaim, and by doing that you neutralize it. But I'm saying more than that. It becomes neutralized, it becomes a positive by jujitsuing it. That was the lechem and yayin. So that took care of two things. Esrik was taken care of when Hashem said, and that's what happens. It becomes an object of a mitzvah. It's jujitsu. What about ta'ena? Ta'ena preceded the jujitsu of ta'ena, flipping it around and making it kosher and positive spiritual, took place on the very same day Rosh Hashanah. Hashem fashioned ale ta'ena, and he covered their nakedness. He gave them sneers for all the dairos. Sneers was on the very same day. That's why I'm telling you, sneers is so integral. There's a spiritual axiom, a formula. Torah is to men as sneers is to women. That's how intrinsically is. No, Chaz. You don't care about sneers because of your personal predilections. But sneers is so important. It's crucial. It's the equivalent of Torah by men, sneers by women. Hashem made the woman from an inside thigh bone of a man that's always covered because the legs stay together. And it says in the Chazal, every time he made a limb, he said to the limb, beat sneers, beat sneers, beat sneers, beat sneers. That's what it all comes back to. Kedoshim Tia, don't be renewable Rishus HaTorah. That's what it's all about. And so Ali Ta'ena was Hashem fashioned the Ta'ena before he rectified wine, before he rectified Chita, before he rectified Esrig. Ta'ena was done on the very same day. And that's synonymous with sneers. That's what it's all about. Baruch Hashem, I was zeicha to say that chiddush, and in the remaining moments, I just want to tell you, everything we emulate Hashem. When Hashem does something, mahu av'ata. So how does Hashem do tshuva? So once years ago, I went into the Boston Rebbe Flatbush and Rosh Hashanah night, and I told him, it's a beferish Chazal. Heavier like carbon, bring a carbon because I minimize the moon. When did that happen? When did Hashem first minimize the moon? The first week before creation, between Chaf Elul and Rosh Hashanah. Okay? So the first Rosh Chodesh, so to speak, carbon was, so to speak, was either Nisan or Tishrei. The self-same day of the new moon of Rosh Hashanah, Hashem did an action that should require him to do tshuva. You know why he did it? He did it to set the path that we should be to do tshuva. Hashem loves us so much, he's moving towards us. He's saying, look, I have to do tshuva, so now it'll be easier for you to do tshuva because I set the prototype. That's how much he loves us. And in these days, he's closer than ever. So the message is, do not vote for lowlifes. Write in names, pull the lever and don't vote. Yes, you should vote for Simcha Felder, even though he's far from perfect, but nevertheless, Simcha Felder, you should vote for. But the rest of the lowlifes, chas v'sholem, and take these messages with you. Again, it's going to have to be a groundswell of support. Just tell Agudas Yisrael, stop telling your shtusim to go drink the Kool-Aid and vote. Go into the enclosure with the pit bulls. Go inoculate our children with poison. That's what voting is, Bizman Hazeh. For Shmutz, Reb Moshe, Reb Yaakov, never. Reb Avigdor Miller, never. The Satmar Rebbe, never. The Shalom B'Tzuyim Balacha, never. The Kashavarov, never. Moirav Rabbeisai. Let's be Zoicha to Gemar Chasim Tov. It's very easy. Here it's so easy not to vote. Sheva Al Tasa is a much bigger mitzvah. And say that I'm doing it, that my wife, my children, my grandchildren be tzniistic. Start to spread this kind of message of tznius. Let's have a tefillah made for tznius. Let's push tznius. Let's push the machanchim and the machanchais. Let's push Agudas Yisrael. Bring it up at the convention when they ask what we should discuss. Discuss in-depth tznius. And we should be zoicha to have a Gemar Chasim Tova. Thank you for listening. Be a partner. Spread the word. Spread the word about the hotline. Spread the word about the video. Spread the word about the radio program. And that's just, you should become a shutzer for what we're doing. Thank you very, very much.